Welcome to Project 10, Wall Street Analysis, Season 2, Episode 1. I'm Saketh and I'll be your host for today's episode. We will discuss what has occurred in the US since the new year began. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. So, let's dive in. First, we will discuss the four major points that helped the banks gain bumper profits or impressively usual profits. The country's largest banks concluded 2024 with impressive profits. Here's how these leaders managed to earn billions of dollars during a year when interest rates began to fall and Donald Trump was elected president. Number one, Wall Street. Big banks with Wall Street divisions experienced significant revenue growth in 2024, recovering from previous years of drought. This surge was largely driven by rising optimism among American corporations, which led companies to issue bonds and take on more debt to expand their operations. The fourth quarter was bustling as many companies aimed to lock in interest rates on their debt ahead of the election. Following Trump's victory, businesses continued to flock to the markets for borrowing, fueled by positive economic expectations. Bankers anticipate even more business opportunities in 2025. Number two, consumers. American consumers contributed to the bank's profits by increasing their credit card spending. This rise in credit card usage generated more interest income and fees for JP Morgan Chase and Co., or the country's largest credit card issuer. However, other areas of the lender's consumer and small business banking unit didn't perform as well as last year. JP Morgan and other banks have been offering higher yields on customer deposits, which has compressed their profit margins. Number three, trading. Volatility in the markets led to higher revenues for lenders' trading divisions. Many economic indicators, including the 10-year Treasury yield, fluctuated as investors responded to news about the election and inflation during the fourth quarter of 2024. Bank of America's trading unit reported its 11th consecutive quarter of growth, with a 19% increase in revenue from fixed income, currencies, and commodities compared to a year earlier. The bank indicated that revenue from this segment reached its highest level in a decade. The last point is asset management. Banks' asset management divisions also performed well, benefiting from strong financial markets. Banks charge fees for these investment management services, which are typically available to corporate clients and individual customers, in addition to their standard checking account and banking services. Alistair Bortwick, Bank of America's chief financial officer, said that market levels have increased significantly throughout 2024, and we have added many new households and families to our platform. He stated this on Thursday. Along with that, US Bancorp, or US Bank, fell 6%, and Capital One faced certain issues with customers having access problems. On the flip side, Morgan Stanley and Bank of America rose 26% and 11% in revenue, respectively. This graph shows the full-year profits of JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Citigroup, six of the largest banks in the world, with JP Morgan having the most full-year profits in 2024 and 23, and Citigroup having the least. Next, we will look at how Goldman Sachs is planning to create a new big group to help the company grow and improve. Goldman Sachs aims to be a major player in the increasingly competitive financing sector. To clarify its ambitions, the Wall Street giant announced on Monday that it is restructuring its global banking and markets division. The new group will be called the Capital Solutions Group and will combine three key teams involved in identifying or facilitating various financing deals. The Capital Solutions Group will include the Financial Sponsors Team, which provides investment banking services to private equity firms, the Global Financing Group, responsible for connecting investors with capital for deals. And the last part is a significant portion of the FICC financing team, which offers loans secured by collateral to other lenders, such as private credit funds. Additionally, Goldman Sachs is establishing a team within the Capital Solutions Group that will focus on finding alternative sources of financing, particularly for corporate clients. Next, let's talk about the rise in stocks and bonds. Stock and bond markets experienced a very significant upswing on Wednesday, January 15th, driven by new inflation data that rekindled hopes for interest rate cuts, alongside strong performances from major banks as earnings season began. A relatively mild December inflation report led to a 0.13 percentage point drop in the 10-year Treasury yield, bringing it down to 4.653%. This decline marked the largest decrease since yields began to rise sharply in December. Consequently, stock investors reacted positively, resulting in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, S&P 500, and Nasdaq Composite enjoying their best trading days since the post-election market rally on November 6th. Now, I will discuss the government bond yields having a really nice surge. Government bond yields have surged recently, unsettling stock markets and putting pressure on indebted countries. This global bond sell-off complicates the efforts of central banks that have been cutting short-term interest rates to lower borrowing costs, as rising yields are making lending more expensive. The average 30-year U.S. mortgage rate climbed to 6.9% last week, with many analysts attributing the bond market decline to U.S. influences. Yields on U.S. Treasuries surged in October following strong job data that eased recession fears. Additionally, Donald Trump's election promises, seen as inflationary, have led to adjusted expectations for fewer rate cuts by Federal Reserve officials in 2025. After this, we are now going to look into Brianna Hall and how she is one of the most important jobs in the world. Brianna Hall holds an invaluable position at a crucial company that majority of you probably don't know, ASML. Before starting her job there, she hadn't heard of the company and she was unsure about her role as a customer support engineer, which she describes as a quote unquote fancy mechanic. Hall also didn't realize how essential her work would be to the global economy. When she arrives for her shift at a chip manufacturing plant, Hall puts on a bunny suit required for the cleanroom environment. She enters a space where the air quality is 100 times cleaner than that of a hospital operating room. From there, she approaches the extreme ultraviolet lithography machine, one of the most complicated machines in the world. And her job is to understand every detail about it in order to ensure she can fix it when necessary. This machine can cost up to $170 million. Next, We're going to be talking about Intel's growing problems and how their rivals or will have been surpassing them for a long time. Intel is facing serious challenges as it loses market share in critical areas. Once a leader in innovation, the company is now competing with AI giant Nvidia, smaller rivals, and former partners like Microsoft. A significant warning sign is that AMD, a one big rival, has recently surpassed Intel in revenue from data center chips. This is significant because in 2022, Intel's revenue was three times the one of AMD. AMD and others are gaining ground in the production of cutting-edge central processing units, or CPUs. However, Intel is struggling in the growing market of graphic processing units, or GPUs, which are crucial for trending AI applications. Currently, Intel holds a minimal share in this high-end GPU market. Next is how the first week of 2025 was good for stocks. Stocks surged higher on January 3rd, with all sectors of the S&P 500 recording gains. The rally was led by chip companies like Nvidia and rebounding shares of Tesla. This push elevated all three major indexes in the positive territory. The tech-heavy Nasdaq saw the largest increase, rising by 1.8%, while the S&P 500 gained 1.3%, marking its best one-day performance since November 6th. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose by 0.8%, or 340 points. Before Friday, both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq have experienced five consecutive days of losses, which had eroded the gains from what was the best 2-year period for equities in 25 years. However, on the second trading day of 2025, concerns about high valuations and the waning hopes for interest rate cuts were set aside. Now, we go into one of the last topics and how BlackRock and Home Depot also saw significant gains. BlackRock's profit increased and assets under management reached a record $11.55 trillion in the fourth quarter. The company reported a net income of $1.67 billion, which is a 21% rise compared to the previous year. Excluding one-time items, this equated to earnings of $11.93 per share, surpassing analyst estimates of $11.24, as polled by FactSet. During the quarter, BlackRock experienced $281 billion in client inflows, exceeding expectations and bringing the total net inflows for the year to a whopping record $641 billion. Following this news, BlackRock shares rose by 5.2%, closing at $1,013.14 on Wednesday. Revenue for the quarter increased by 23%, reaching $5.68 billion, also beating expectations of $5.57 billion. Base management fees, which are not tied to a fund's performance, were $4.4 billion, aligning with analyst estimates. Additionally, Home Depot shares rose due to growing optimism regarding customer spending and construction activity. The last topic we will discuss before we move on is how Jeff Bezos is more confident after New Glen's most recent successful launch. Jeff Bezos' space company, Blue Origin, successfully launched its massive New Glenn rocket for the first time, marking a significant milestone in the Amazon founder's lifelong ambition for space exploration. The rocket lifted off from a launch pad near Cape Canaveral, Florida, with flames erupting from its booster. This event is a crucial step for Bezos as he aims to compete with rival space entrepreneur Elon Musk. In a recent interview, Bezos stated, "All of the things we wanted to do in the future rely on New Glenn." The launch, which had been postponed several times, was initially scheduled for earlier this month. On Monday, the company had to cancel a launch attempt due to ice accumulation on a power unit component. However, on Thursday, the New Glenn rocket had a smooth countdown, lifting off just after 2 a.m. Eastern Time, which should be 3 a.m. Central Time. According to commenters on the company's live stream, the rocket's upper stage, which was carrying test systems for a Blue Origin spacecraft, successfully reached orbit, which was the mission's primary objective. Thank you for listening to another episode of Project Titan Wall Street Analysis. I'll see you later.